Coming up next on American Black Journal, longtime Detroit businessman Walt Douglas is here to talk about his new book, The Activist Entrepreneur. The book chronicles his life in Detroit's community, political, and business circles. We'll talk with him about his rise to success and get his thoughts on Detroit's current financial situation. So stay tuned.
Eric wants to know,
what does DTE Energy do to make Michigan a better place?
Rodney can tell you.
We do a lot, like youth education and employment programs. We fund over 500 jobs for youth all across the state. Many are neighborhood improvement projects just like this.
It's incredible.
Wow, that is fantastic. So this is like a paint by number, this whole thing, right? Communities are such great places, aren't they?
They sure are.
I love the siding. Measure once, cut twice, right? DTE Energy. Know your own power.
When I grow up,
I want to be an architectural engineer.
A registered nurse.
In the law enforcement.
a computer scientist.
A successful person.
Give Michigan's children the chance to aim high with quality early education.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. Walt Douglas is a well-known name in Detroit. He has made his mark in community affairs, government, and business. Now Douglas has written a book that looks back at his professional career and offers advice for today's aspiring black entrepreneurs. The book is titled The Activist Entrepreneur. It tells how Douglas went from being the president of the nation's first major urban coalition, New Detroit Incorporated, to building one of the top 4 dealerships in the country, Avis Ford. The book is filled with stories about the challenges Douglas overcame, along with the secrets to his business success. I'd like to welcome Walt Douglas to American Black Journal. So I feel like we can't do this without at least disclosing the relationship that we have. You've known me my entire life. You and my uncle Bill Beckham were close friends for a very long time, and that's actually a really good place to start this conversation. Back in the late 1960s, early 70s, in Detroit, when I feel like you and he and lots of other people were really laying the groundwork for a new kind of black power in Detroit, black authority and control, and laying the groundwork for the things that we see now in terms of what African Americans are able to do.
I think that was the start of the period. Bill and I and so many others, we felt marginalized. Some of us had our toe into politics or into what was going on at the time. I, for example, had a budding career with the IRS, which had gone to a plateau well beyond what many others had done before that. The reason for it was a very complex issue, programming computers. You either did it right or you didn't do it at all.
Or you couldn't, right?
And if you could do it right, then your boss put his arm around your shoulder and protected you, and you helped him look good.
Right.
So it was making the challenging leaps that guys like Bill and I and so many others began to take that began to point the direction that we ultimately were able to make some significant progress.
Sure.
Forward.
Yeah, and this is right after the riots in 1967, and an important decision after that to try to put together this coalition of partners called New Detroit, which you led for a very long time.
I was its third president, and the community was so shocked that our community that thought it had great race relations because of the primary work of the UAW, which your grandfather was involved
William Beckham Sr., right.
Kind of say, oh, it's not going to happen here. It can happen in other cities, but we have great relationships here. But we really didn't. And the civil disturbance in '67 kind of pointed that out. It shocked everybody, but people said, well, we just can't sit on the sidelines. We've got to do something about it.
Right.
And the business community, Walter Reuther leading the UAW, community leaders like Judge Damon Keith and Dr. Arthur Johnson and so many others came together and formed this urban coalition. It became a very safe place that you could dialogue about important issues that were facing the community, off camera, so to speak.
Sure.
So that people could be candid or could listen. While there were not sometimes many responses, I think business leaders and other significant leaders began to listen. and understand that we can't continue to move forward the way we've been in the past. We've got to make some changes.
Right, right. And we got to work much closer
Yes.
together. And New Detroit continues today in that tradition.
It really does. Shirley Stan Carter, she does a great job of continuing the dialogue, so to speak. My hat's off to her. It's a difficult initiative.
Yeah,
it's hard to measure progress.
Right.
But maybe we're making progress.
Right, and it's a tricky sort of spot to be in. I mean, I feel like it's not an incendiary organization. It's not the one that's going to go out and raise a lot of fuss. But behind the scenes,
Right.
it gets a lot of things done, and
It does.
makes a lot of connections. And
That's been the history of New Detroit, and our community, I think, in many ways is better for having had it
Right.
all these years.
right. So after New Detroit, you make this transition to entrepreneur. Talk about that. I know in the book you talk about the buying of the dealership and things like that. I think it's hard for people now, given the number of African Americans we know who own car dealerships, to imagine what that was like then. It was very different.
It was different. Now, there was some support opportunities. General Motors and Ford and Chrysler, they all had minority dealer programs, ways that could assist people in moving ahead. But when I was leaving New Detroit, I was 52 years of age, 51 going on 52, and the decision or the thought by so many in this community was, well, he'll go into an executive position in one of the local area corporations.
Sure.
And be well accepted, et cetera. I got no real offers from
is that
those
right?
corporations. They were not interested because I don't think they fully believed that one could leave the nonprofit sector
I see.
and make a significant difference in their corporate community, except in something like urban affairs,
Right.
which I thought would be a marginalized kind of thing anyway.
Sure.
And so here I am, 50-some years of age, and I said, what am I going to do? And I decided I'm going to bet on myself. And that's when I decided I would become an auto dealer.
Yeah. And so you buy Avis Ford and really build it into a much bigger dealership than it was.
Where it's located, at Telegraph and 12 Mile, it's in one of the greatest spots.
A very
a
good
dealership
spot,
could
right?
be any place in
Right.
the United States.
Sure.
The dealership functioned well, but it had absentee ownership. Warren Avis, who owned 51%, only wanted checks from the people who were operating it.
Yeah.
And the people who were operating it did not do the best job of doing it and had, well, I won't get into any of the details of it, but it was not run well.
Yeah.
And lots of things went on in the dealership that probably shouldn't go on in the business.
Right.
There was one occasion where the general manager actually fired off a shotgun into the showroom floor. He did it accidentally, but the fact that he had one
Why did he have it at work, right?
and allowed it to be fired off in the dealership suggests the kind of meat
Right,
that was
right,
there.
yeah.
So we were able to take advantage of a great opportunity and make it even more successful.
Yeah. And so that transition, talk about that transition from that nonprofit world to that for-profit world.
Well, before I left New Detroit, I had some interest in business, and Paul Hubbard, who's a good friend of mine, and I had started a school bus company under contract with the Detroit Board of Education, and we did it in an arm's length fashion, but yet the local media were very critical of us, saying that Dr. Arthur Jefferson at the time served on our board, and the fact that he was on our board made it a conflict of interest for me to have a contract with the Detroit Board of Education. So we fought through that, but my only point being that I had some other interests in business, even while I was at New Detroit, that that were beginning to emerge, and that's how I got started. So I kind of had a strong interest in business, and that's kind of talked about in the book a little bit, and it just worked out that I was able to do something that I've always wanted to do.
Right. Well, and that risk taking, right? That decision to, as you say, bet on yourself. That's really important, and that's a really important message.
If you don't believe in yourself, then you should not try and go in business for yourself, because you're the only guy who's going to be there at midnight when something needs to be figured out or done,
right,
you can't hand it off to anybody else. It's got to be you.
It's you.
Okay.
Right. And you know, through all of this this work you've done, you've seen a lot in Detroit in terms of the change in the business climate and government. You knew Coleman Young.
I did
very well. We've got a new mayor now in Detroit. What lessons do you feel like you have learned that you can pass on to other people in terms of that stuff?
Well, you have to espouse your beliefs, and you have to challenge other people to at least recognize that you're in the room and that you're asking an important question. I remember asking a vice president of Ford Motor Company when they would have their first African-American vice president. He was so dumbfounded that the question was so far off the radar, he couldn't answer it.
He hadn't even contemplated
He
that.
had no contemplation of that ever happening.
And what year was that?
That was in 73,
Okay.
1973. And I never forgot it, and I began to ponder that question myself and say, well, what's wrong with African Americans? And so I conclude, well, first thing, you've got to come up through the structure. They didn't generally hire from the outside back in those days. So you'd have to start and emerge and prove to the organization that you were worthy. And few African Americans had that opportunity.
Right.
So I'm sure that's what he said. There's nobody on the radar.
There's no one he could think of
Right.
who was even in the pipeline.
But when they all got their first African American vice president, they came in from the outside. Otis Smith at General Motors,
Sure.
Roy Ritchie at Chrysler, and Elliott Hall they were all lawyers.
They were all lawyers, right? Right. Yeah. What do you think about what's going on now in Detroit with the bankruptcy? I mean, did you ever think back in the 70s? I mean, I know that Detroit has always had financial challenges, and you know, when Mayor Young was in office, there were times that he thought, you know, we're not going to make it.
Yeah, well, you know, and at that time, back in the 70s and early 80s, we had over 1 million people.
Right.
We had enough people that we all thought there's enough of a nest egg here that we can generate taxes, we can generate jobs, we can et cetera. And during the 90s, there actually was a growth in jobs in the city of Detroit, but then that reversed quickly after 2000. But we all wondered what was at the end of the rainbow, so to speak, and we'd go to Washington, we'd take delegations to Washington to meet with Jerry Ford, who was president at the time, and other presidents, Jimmy Carter.
Sure.
We would go to Lansing. Bill Milliken was an extremely good friend to the city back in those days,
right,
and helped with revenue sharing and things like that. But I don't think any of us ever thought that the pension issue itself, which I think is a fundamental problem.
Yeah.
Funding the liability that goes way into the future.
Yep.
Could take us down. And when it began to be talked about, I began to understand it because Detroit's not the only city that
there's lots of people who have that issue.
There are lots of cities that are going to eventually have to bite that bullet, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, do you feel optimistic when you think about, you know, not just your dealership, but your son, who's following in your footsteps?
You know, I've always been an optimist. I see the glass half full rather than half empty. I'm not a pessimistic person, so I can't say that I don't believe the future can be better than the past. But, you know, our entire society, whether you're talking about what a college graduate earns a day versus a non-college graduate,
sure,
the gap is narrowing, which means that what we call the middle class is under a severe amount of pressure from external forces, jobs being exported overseas. All of that's going into the equation. So things are going to have to settle a little bit.
Right.
Not only here in Detroit, but national as well. They've got a huge problem in Washington they've got to deal
Absolutely.
with. But I'm optimistic about Detroit. I think that like all cities, I've watched some trends. Having come from Washington, D.C. and lived in the East for a long time before moving out here, I always concluded that things happen here maybe 10, 15 years later than they do in some other cities.
Right.
So, I mean, we've got a great new stadium. We have 2 new stadiums downtown that were built recently, so we're proud of those now. But had we built the stadium that Roman Gribbs wanted to build back in 1971, that would be an old dilapidated stadium now.
Right.
You know? So sometimes delaying things gives you an opportunity to make a better judgment about them. So I think we're in an opportunity to make some very good judgments. We've always, well, for many, many years, unlike Chicago and some other cities, our land use has been not the best.
Yeah.
We've just kind of planked things down where we thought they ought to be, and there's no rhyme or reason to it.
Not been a lot of planning there.
Not a
lot of thought about this is where we want to grow. This is where we maybe don't need to grow so much.
Right. So now we've got an opportunity. It's not a clean sheet of paper, but it's close.
Right. It's sort of an opportunity, right? I mean,
is.
Coming out of the bankruptcy, you restructure and hopefully unload a lot of your debt, so that you can spend your money on services.
Right.
Yeah.
I just looked at I was with the Economic Club yesterday, and the state has a surplus of $1.2 billion.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with it? Well, one of the things they maybe ought to do is to buy the DIER.
Right.
Put that on the balance sheet for the state. Let that money flow to the city. At least part of it, not $1 billion. I don't think the state would give the city $1 billion. But
Yeah.
why not?
That's got to be frustrating too. I mean, you talked about Bill Milliken and the relationship he had with Coleman Young and the city. It's really different now. I mean, there's much more of an us versus them structure to that relationship, both in terms of people here and in Lansing.
It's deliberate. It's not. It's just deliberate because people are playing politics.
Right.
That's what it's about. Yeah. So.
Yeah. When you think about entrepreneurs in the city, I mean, this is a city that's coming back now, at least partially on the backs of entrepreneurs. I mean, new people, young people opening businesses in the city. There's a lot of concern I hear about the role that African Americans are playing in that they're not getting the opportunities that they should. As somebody who started out at a time when there wasn't as much opportunity.
We tried to encourage economic development in a macro sense back in the 70s and 80s. Walter McMurtry, Larry Dawson, your Uncle Bill, and so many others. And we have a cadre of businesses. Dr. William Picard and some others own some rather substantial businesses, mostly in the automotive industry.
Right.
But today's growth seems to be in high technology, small devices that you can make 1 billion of them. And,
right.
And one great idea can do that kind of thing. I happen to serve on the BizDom board, which is a board that Dan Gilbert has set up to attract entrepreneurs to the city. And while we've been attracting a significant number of entrepreneurs, we don't have as many non-white African-American new idea thinkers coming to Dan Gilbert. Dan Gilbert provides them with some seed money, a place to develop their ideas, an office, free office space, and that kind of thing. And we haven't had as many takers as I would like to see. Part of it is because of culture. Well, while we did some things to encourage a culture, the fundamental culture of believing in yourself and taking an idea and developing it and sharpening it and refining it is not as natural to African Americans.
You still feel like that's
because of our history.
Because of our history,
for so many years.
Sure.
But it's changing. I mean, you've got guys like Jay-Z and some others who do some phenomenal things.
Yeah.
On a great grand scale. So how can they do it? And some people others don't do it.
Right. Right.
We just need to encourage the process.
I mean, what are the things that you think someone like Dan Gilbert, who, like you said, is doing an awful lot to try to get businesses to locate in the city, what are some of the things that people like him can do to change that?
Well, I think continuing to, the BizDom program is an initiative he started here, and he also has one in Cleveland, where they send out emails, they send out information. If you've got an idea, come and make a presentation to us and convince us that it's worth something. And if it is, we'll give you an office and we'll give you some seed monies to try and help develop it.
Right.
That's a great initiative. I mean, what more can he do in that direction? I don't know. I saw his billboard he had up the other day of this young kid. I wish that was an African-American kid that was up there.
Yeah,
That to me would have made a little bit more sense.
Speaks a little more
to.
to.
But
to people in the city.
But I have to applaud some of the things he's doing.
Yeah. And
He
still,
needs help. The other people need to step up and do some things like that as well.
Yeah. Well, and still, it's a lot easier now than it was when you were.
It is.
We're doing things.
No
I
question
mean, there's
about it.
a big difference.
I mean, banks are on board. If you have a reasonable idea, there's a stronger likelihood that a bank will listen to you and perhaps fund it, maybe with SBA guarantees. But some of those things just didn't happen 30, 40 years ago.
Right.
You didn't get into the bank.
Right.
So.
Right. What about downtown Detroit? I know that you know, we've had fits and starts for most of my lifetime with downtown. I can remember
longer than your lifetime.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, I can remember going on a field trip to watch them build the Renaissance Center,
sure.
And the woman who was leading the field trip was talking about this is the place where we turn the corner, right? This is going to be an anchor.
One of those people
for
saying the same thing.
Yeah, right, for the rebirth of the city, and it didn't really work out. And we could go through 6, 7 different things.
Instead of building more hotels downtown, we built one at 8 Mile and I-275.
Right.
We built them in Troy, and we built them in Southfield. And those that were built in Southfield, right along Northland, they're abandoned now.
Right, that's right. People don't want
downtown,
that anymore.
I don't think they would have been abandoned. We just have had horrible land use problems, principally because of our feelings around race.
Well, right, race drives that, right?
Race has driven that for a long time in Detroit, and it's time for us to stop doing that. And I think we see some progress. I think I see fewer suburbanites and others bashing the city.
Sure.
Nowadays than I used to.
And you got real capital concentrated in
Yes, you do.
in the city that I don't remember seeing, not in that scale, in my lifetime.
Right.
And then you've got this sort of idea that people should be there and maybe even live there.
And a lot of young people see that as an opportunity. And while the growth is slow, I like Mike Douglas' challenge the other day. Give me 6 months. And the thing I want you to measure me about in the 4 years I'm here is, are there more people living in the city at the end of my term?
Yeah, he keeps saying that I think that is a really bold goal to set. We've lost population for what, 6 decades.
Yes.
He's saying we're going to turn it around and regain. That'd be something, wouldn't it?
It would be.
It just seems impossible. I mean, you hate to say that, but given the
well, if you can do some intriguing and interesting things around taxing the cost of the tax base for houses,
sure,
you could maybe make them more attractive. I mean, if people don't look at how much taxes they pay; they look at the note.
Right.
I can buy a house in West Bloomfield and my note is $600. And if I can buy a house in Detroit and my note is $700, but most of it's taxes,
right?
Where am I going to buy the house?
Right.
So
that's right. That's right.
one of the things that people look at.
We've got about 2 minutes left. I want to get back to your book really quick. What message do you want people to take from the book, particularly young people in the city?
The era that I lived in Detroit, being new to Detroit, having to learn the city, its leaders and all the rest of it, and the period that I lived through was a rather fascinating period for me. It saw a great transition in the role that African Americans played in this community versus before. It made it more normal to see African Americans in downtown restaurants, whatever, doing things. And there's a story there. And it's a story that has legs, and the legs are the leadership that you give to the notion of change.
Right.
And I was involved in a significant amount of change. And people need to continue to do that.
Yeah.
And also believe in your own ideas. Looking at your own future, ask yourself some serious questions about what I can do to make my life better, and what can I do to make my community better. And try and answer those questions. Talk to people about it. Include other people, and surround yourself with people who think like you do, who want to go
and who believe, right?
Who believe in a future.
I often feel like that's one of our biggest problems in Detroit is that lack of belief.
Yes, we've got to solve our education problem. We've got to start turning out youngsters like you, who came out of the city of Detroit.
Sure, right. I grew up here.
And my kids the same way.
Right.
That's what we've got to focus
and are still here. I
yes,
mean, that's one of the important things. There's so many of us who grew up in doing great things somewhere else,
That's
and
right,
that's hurting us here.
I would hope that we can continue to do that right here in our city.
Okay. Well, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
And great to have you here.
Great to have you.
Yes,
Great to be here. I should
Yes.
say.
That's our show for today. Thanks for watching. We'd love to hear what you thought about today's program and get your ideas for future topics. So connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll see you next time on American Black Journal.
Eric wants to know.
What does DTE Energy do to make Michigan a better place?
Rodney can tell you.
We do a lot, like youth education and employment programs. We fund over 500 jobs for youth all across the state. Many are neighborhood improvement projects just like this.
It's incredible.
Wow, that is fantastic. So this is like a paint by number, this whole thing, right? Communities are such great places, aren't they?
They sure are.
Love the siding. Measure once, cut twice, right? DTE Energy. Know your own power.
When I grow up,
I want to be an architectural engineer.
Registered nurse.
In the law enforcement,
a computer scientist.
a successful person.
Give Michigan's children the chance to aim high with quality early education.